The horses are doing fine by the way, and some of the exchange went to donkey ownership, as well as wash-up services by the Komodo dragons. On my part of deployment to the southern side, I don't much touch leg on, but that's just part of the floor going around. So now we have the crops and sugar cane, and the shipyard's contract can be renewed purely on the sugar cane subscription to me, which is funded on behalf of lower tier shipyard customers trying to supply candy they're forced to on sponsorship of the Malibu coastal deal, presenting onto the horse owner buying new property. That's a self-sustained feather loop on itself, but I'm in the Claymore flank sensor of trip mines and side-to-side spawn rate when it comes to the tax, while the metal and concrete infrastructure blooms out of high sky type credit score ever seen. Those rentals are sold to build new ones investors had already bought before it being legal, since they had previous rental incomes cut from when before I sent out their Thailand men, at this time traversing the Pacific. Them filing for bankruptcy forces them to stake out a pen agreement for 2% of my new crops to keep them breathing out of the red, while I get to have them undermine the whole crop. Part of legal dissonance being signed the same for the whole 100%, while only 2 of that is to their name, and rated on the entire tax. By the time a breath isn't red and new ties are being ties, the 4th cycle of back spawn operations is committed, meaning that more than 2/3 of the investors are trapped in the 4th cycle of infrastructure. They are being based in to take up both ends of the rope, meaning the ties newly tied on deduced 0.8% of crop, and the Thailand men located in the Pacific, having a champagne time on metal. From that self-flank feeding themselves, there's only one spawn left, which has already been self-flanked on stun, since the Thailand men attracted attention nearing in on Vancouver sock handling the covers. During that time, I set up the last set of the pyramids hidden deep in the Amazon, previously bought out on nature preservation, as well as foundational initiative actually doing its part, which is how that factory double put make it slip through, because all other similar acts were made viral in the exposition of how much nothing they've done, sitting on 200 times more greenery allegations made clear. Those are to complete the set before welcoming back visitors to have a time, just a personal project. So the allegedly free of contract Thailand men set up group plans made from what they are useful for, making more deals happen without substances with tangential motion to the mills. In short, they get to Vancouver and try to go long on a deal with infrastructure, where their original skill set and usefulness was selected from, since they were top performers in their pond. However, they have zero light bulb on what circles on the flanks from where they came from. They just know mechanisms on how they set up things earlier on a function. Obviously Vancouver is high on regional positioning, but secluded and other things enough to not care a bulb outside what the state whistled in the forest, and how to have milk in bags on ice to explode and have other local schemes like that don't search up anywhere else to have some landing space before being noticed. It's a bad tactic, but essentially they've decided to not look and have a deal to not be looked at if they roll a 6, and call it off completely on telescope if they don't. But they've also decided to kind of not roll it yet, because it's cold, and the involved agreed because of other complications, promising more as well as kind of wanting to push hides more to their side, since either of them won't be looking. So the Thailand men get their long deal and in return get sent back, but to a new more real piece of state, being the sold one too, then also already built and not used for anything. The crops and sugarcane completely get bailed, and they tie their ties to now 2.4% of first course diminished infrastructure. No longer reeling investors, because of how top of the line the 4th is. So now they have the light bulb that they've got this loop and will come out of the flank because of what they thought of on the metal champagne, with also new capital gains. But the offices they had their ties to as realer estate aren't to their name on land on other enterprise corporation, meaning that the actions don't repeat themselves in the same way. But the new men from Thailand get sent on the solidified old trip, while these old one get the offices excavated for the 6th beam being built, and relocate to a free of charge trip to raise the western parts, currently significantly lower on investment, and in need of an older pair of suit to modernize it based on empirical experience, whatever that means to be systematized. And that's a different type of roundabout again, shifted almost regulate to a 20th of an orbital increment, while the new men from Thailand get their suitcases take 2 run in boxer shorts, excited, because the wrecking ball caused another case to flip investments and take percentages, which, hilariously enough, are written off to Rob's shipyard maintenance of all people. As long as the full set relevant side is pushing over on the flank, it doesn't matter how the first build are toppling, because they already have stuns, strips, claymores and tacks, so they can be looped around faster, and I-Gen get back to pushing flank's edge. It's all on the feeling type deal, might as well be naked of predicting whether the circles get the squares. Or I switch to getting 4 or throwing paper on what's the fastest decision, because they have it based on getting in confused on the other end, while this end doesn't even look at whatever the product was. East fraud layer traverse west, and the popularized west goes further west to land up east, when the deals are taking trajectory, because it's easier to hide it under the table or on the wardrobe. But they go clockwise looking to their tradition from kind of above, meaning that they never meet, and have more time to fight longer battles in the other comfortable toilet, that either isn't looked over, or doesn't know that such a thing would make sense to exist. And that's not even touching electronics log viewed to manage activity, burner managed on a second beaver. You see, when you don't shut down the mind, meaning that having a look works like a spark, while watching to spark shuts it down. That's a personal decision that should mo based on overload and necessity instead of whatever. This makes it hard to stop jumping around faster. The handed motions carry. Exciting walks in circles are waiting to get covered, green and fresh May air, and I'm in the hall ready to call it. The hilarious way will find its result, and I'll be the first to feed this gambling addiction.